Without grace, I have zero hope. Without grace, it does not matter how many good things I can do. It doesn't matter how hard I try to love someone. It doesn't matter how much money I give. Grace is where I find salvation because it is something that I cannot do myself. This is significant. You were dead in your trespasses and sins. Not you were bad. Not you were evil. Not you need to be better. Not, well, if you tried a little harder. Nope. You were dead in your trespasses and sins in which you previously walked according to the ways of this world. According to the ruler of the power of the air, the spirit now working in the disobedient. He says, look, when you were not in relationship with God, when you were doing your own thing, when you were being influenced by all of the things around you, when that happened, it's not that you were making bad choices. It's not that you could have been better. It's that you were dead. You were spiritually dead.
Sorry, Pastor it's my Bible's going off.
It says, we too all previously lived among them in our fleshly desires, carrying out the inclinations of our flesh and thoughts. And we were by nature children under wrath, as the others were also. He says, look, what you experienced is no different than what the rest of us experienced. We were all in that same spot. See, I think that's something that we miss sometimes. That's something I think that when we look at the cathedral downtown and we go, it's not that great because I've seen all this other stuff. One of the things that we also forget is what God has done in our life and where he has brought us from. In just a few weeks, we're going to celebrate 75 years of this church's existence. Man, how awesome is that? How awesome that there was a point 75 years ago where people said, we need to gather together and worship, and we want to make an impact on our community. But I want you to know that if all we do is celebrate the past, then we are dead. It needs to be honoring the past, looking forward to and celebrating the future. Celebrating the future of what God has called us to. And what happens is when we look at different chapters of our life, sometimes we look back on certain eras as if they were the glory days. I'm telling you right now, the glory days of music in my mind was a very small period of time. It was the mid-'80s through the early '90s. Now, some of you have different opinions of that, and that's okay. You can be wrong. I'm all right with that, okay? Does not affect me that you have the wrong opinion. But I love that era, and part of the reason that I love that era is, one, I listen to a lot of contemporary Christian music. CCM is what we used to call it back in the day, and that era in CCM was awesome. And then the time that I listened to secular music during that period of time is when I was at the skating rink. Some of you don't know what skating rink is. That's all right, okay? That's a place that we were used to be allowed to go to. We would strap wheels to our feet without having elbow pads or helmets on. We would hurdle ourselves around an oval and sometimes would even play games where you tried to knock other people into a wall and knock out their teeth, okay? It happened. And so we would go roll, and there was like awesome songs like Living on a Prayer. Remember that one? Oh, that was so great. Great song. Walk Like an Egyptian. Not necessarily a really great song, but really cool to watch all your friends going around like this in the skating rink trying not to fall over as they did this and all. Like, to me, like that was the glory days of it. But you know what I don't listen to all day, every day anymore? I don't listen to songs from the 80s and 90s. I still listen to them occasionally. I still enjoy pulling them out, but it's not what I listen to all the time. Because there's new music. There's new stuff. I still come back to it, but there's new. Today, we sang a couple brand new songs to our congregation. Now, we also sang ones fairly old. Right? See, it's not about what songs I'm singing. It's about who am I singing them to. It's about who am I worshiping them with. He says, look, we've all been in this same boat. Some of us tend to forget that. Some of us tend to forget that that person that seems like they're messing up all the time is no different than we were and still can be. Then he says this, but God, who is rich in mercy, because of his great love that he had for us, made us alive with Christ, even though we were dead. You are saved by grace. You are saved by grace. How sweet the sound. See, grace is not just this idea. Grace is not just a concept. Grace is the vehicle by which I am able to live a life in relationship with God. Without grace, I have zero hope. Without grace, it does not matter how many good things I can do. Without grace, it doesn't matter how hard I try to love someone. Without grace, it doesn't matter how much money I give. Without grace, it doesn't matter how many times I show up to a church service. Grace is where I find salvation, because it is something that I cannot do myself. God, who is rich in mercy, because of his great love that he had for us, made us alive with Christ, even though we were dead in trespasses. You are saved by grace. And then he says something else. He goes, he also raised us up with him and seated us with him in the heavens in Christ Jesus, so that in the coming ages he might display the immeasurable riches of his grace through his kindness to us in Christ Jesus. He said, look, not only am I pouring out my grace on you, I am also making you a joint heir. I am putting you in position with my Son, not because you've earned it, but because I have gifted it. You are saved by grace through faith. And this is not from yourselves, it is God's gift, not from works, so that no one can boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared ahead of time for us to do. Now,